Hello everyone, James from Junkyard Fox. Thank you so much for joining me, and today we have a very exciting video. Not only is this our first knife review of the year 2020, but this knife is not only one of my favorite knives of all time, but it has a very special place in American history during its frontier period, its westward expansion. And so the knife that I'm talking about is this beauty right here. This is the Green River Knives Hunter. American made, been made here for almost 200 years at this point, so it's a classic. So I'm going to elaborate on its history, and then from there I'm going to put it to the test. Can this knife, an old-timer of a knife, can it handle today's testing methods? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a one-stick fire with it, batoning, feather sticking, that kind of stuff, and then from there kitchen prep. So I'm going to chop up some potatoes to fry up, and then lastly what it was made to be doing, which is butchering game. So we got ourselves a rabbit today, so we're just going to process it and cook it over the fire, and we're going to be eating good today. So once again, thank you for joining me. Let's get started. Okay folks, just a quick specs rundown and then we'll get started with the testing. Now my version is an upgraded handle that is a little bit more expensive. I got it from a website called Crazy Crow Trading Company. So before I do the specs, I'm just going to move to the regular version. So this is the regular version that you can order. It's like less than 25 bucks. So it's a really good knife. 1095 high carbon steel, flat grind with the clip point. It is thinner than 1/8 inch thick, so it is a very thin blade. These handles are wooden and checkered. They can be uncomfortable, I will warn you now. Basic use in the kitchen, it's not going to be a problem, but toning and stuff, you're going to feel it. So this is Cuervo's Green River, and he sanded this down. He just used sandpaper and just sanded it down where it's more comfortable. But yeah, really nice little knife. They don't usually come with the sheath, so you can purchase the sheath separately. Once again, these are budget friendly, made in America, about 25 bucks. Now me, once again, I went to a different website that has an upgraded handle that's more comfortable. And then it does come with the sheath, with the very basic ugly leather sheath, if you'd like. It's for starters, it's fine. I did eventually move up to some upgraded sheath from another website called Track of the Wolf, and this one's decent. Fits in just fine. Other than that, guys, keep in mind these are not made by a craftsman. Like, they're not coming like a LT Wright knife, so they're coming from a factory. So you're gonna have to sharpen them up and file the spine, because it doesn't come with the 90-degree spine. So little things here and there, fit and finish. Don't expect something, once again, a craftsman knife, but for the money that you're paying, they're pretty fine. They're fine. Alright folks, so as you saw, this was able to do batoning and feather sticking just fine. Now I'm going to admit to you guys, I made that look easy because we were using pine. As you can tell behind me, we are around pine, and pine is a very soft wood, so this knife was able to baton through it and work with it beautifully. I have tried using this knife against harder woods like mesquite, and it just really struggled. Keep in mind that was not its intended purpose. This is a flat grind knife. It is a very thin knife. I don't recall what's the thinness of it, but I'll annotate it below. It's as thin as the Murakhan's bowl. So it really wasn't designed for batoning. Woodsmen back then were using things like axes and hatchets and tomahawks, you know, in conjunction with their blade. This was going to take care of the woodwork, the heavy woodwork. Then they had a whittling knife, a pocket knife, and then this was mainly for using for processing game or self-defense if need be. So now let's move on to its intended purpose. So down here, as you can tell, we got ourselves a rabbit. We are grateful to it. We did harvest it just not so long ago, and we're gonna process it down. So in case you are squeamish, I suggest you go ahead and fast forward this video, because we are gonna go ahead and process game, and we're gonna put it over the fire to cook. But that's what this is intended for. So let's get to it. Now, the difference between processing this rabbit now as opposed to videos where I've processed them before is I'm actually trying to save the hides. I'm trying to start learning how to use hides to make gloves or hats or something. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful. Now, before any smart aleck comments down below that if you know what you're doing, you can process a rabbit without a knife. I know how to do that. That is coming into, a video later on. But for now, we're testing the knife. So it makes sense to test out this blade. All right, so first things first, let me move him down. I'm just going to squeeze the belly to get the urine out. You can tell, I know it's a little gross, but it's just going to make it a lot easier for me. Okay, so it took a little longer than I'm used to. I'm used to just basically destroying the pelt just to get to the meat. This time it did take me a good maybe 40 minutes just to get to this. I really wanted to take my time because I want to take this home and learn. So I'm going to be studying how to go ahead and make clothing out of this, or at least a blanket or something. So fingers crossed you see me rocking some mittens pretty soon. But the knife did very well. And now to gut the animal. Now, before we commence testing, I do want to give a brief summary on its history. I know some people are going to find this boring, but I happen to be a very big history fanatic, and I'm going to share a little bit of this with my history buffs out there, and I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. Okay, so let's wind the clocks back to America in its stages of infancy. Now, America wins independence from Britain, but it's still very largely an undeveloped nation. There's a few big cities like Boston, but for the most part, it's a lot of forts and farms. And then to the west of us is vast stretches of wilderness that have not been explored. In fact, we don't even own that wilderness yet. So most stuff being imported, because we didn't have a lot of industrialization at the time, most of the knives were being still brought in from England. Once again, at that time, that wasn't a problem because it was still very early in America's history. So once again, most of the knives were coming from England. However, fast forward a few years later, America is developing. Jefferson makes the Louisiana Purchase from the French, and all of a sudden, all that wilderness to the west becomes unlocked, and he wants to explore it. So he sends Lewis and Clark, and that opens up the whole westward expansion. So then we have a lot of trappers heading out there and explorers, soldiers, and then of course not only do they need knives, but then they're coming across contact with new native tribes, and they're going to barter for supplies for safe passage across their lands. So this is when this knife comes in. In the year 1834, John Russell had the good business sense to start a knife company here in the United States. So right off Massachusetts by the Green River, he started Green River Knives. So from there, it took off. They started heading westward. There was just a lot of demand for them, and they just became classics. And this is not the only design. They have, of course, other design like the more banana-shaped Skinners and that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is one of the designs, and it hasn't really changed much since then. So in the big picture, that's basically the summary I'm giving you guys for this knife. As for the little picture, which is how I came across finding out about this blade, back in 2010, before I was doing any bushcraft myself, I've always been a big reader, and I've always loved Westerns. I'm a fanatic for Westerns. So my favorite novel of all time is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. I have read this book 17 times. I love it. Same writer that made No Country for Old Men and The Road. And I have that book here with me today to talk to you guys about it. So back in 2010, I'm reading this book, and the main character, he's the kid. He's just known as the kid. He's a 14-year-old kid who's just wandering alone in Texas at the time, and he runs across a couple of cowboys, taking their cattle, driving them, and this kid has nothing on him. He has no supplies. He's starving, and these little cowboys, they're youngsters, they take him in with them. They feed him. They trade stories, and in the morning when they're going their separate ways, they leave him a little bag right next to his mule. Okay, so here on page 21 it says, when he found his mule, there was a small fiber bag tied to the animal's rope, and inside the bag there was a cup full of dried beans and some peppers and an old Green River knife with a handle made of string. So that's really cool. It's like it was meant to be. So Blood Meridian, great book, and yeah, from then on forward, the kid is using a Green River knife. Okay, so our rabbit is cooking. We're not cooking all of it because it was a large rabbit and we are running out of sunlight. So the knife worked excellent for that. It is a flat grind. It is very thin, so this is what it's going to excel at, which is game processing. Also, it's going to excel at kitchen prep or camp cooking. So in order to complement our rabbit, we're going to cut up some potatoes as well. I'm going to show you just how well this slices. There's a ton of knives out there that are survival knives, but are just lousy when it comes to this kind of stuff, which is the more everyday kind of stuff, not trying to be a hater, but like the Becker BK2, I think those knives are just really silly. You don't need something that thick. I mean, our ancestors that really had to live their lives, rough, away from civilization, away from the nearby convenience of like a store or drive-through restaurants, they got by with things like this, and they survived. And look how thin we can get these slices. I mean, that is ridiculously thin. You can see the knife in the back. All right, folks, so moment of truth. Now we let the potatoes cook for about 10 minutes. I mean, they don't really need that long. Look how thin they are, so they cooked very quickly. As per our rabbit. Nice and white and flaky on the inside, nice and roasted outside, with blackening and pepper and seasoned salt. Now this is a great lunch right here. Okay, folks, so that's about the conclusion of this video. If you did enjoy the Green River Knives Hunter, we do have the regular version in our Amazon store down below. It sells for about 22 bucks, 25 bucks, still made in America, high carbon steel, a classic with a very rich legacy. So if you're interested in it, the link is down below to purchase it, and it really helps us out. We're also selling a kit. It's a blank kit, so it comes with the knife blank, and then it has wood and pins. So you can, if you want to go do it yourself and you want to get something a little bit more comfortable for your hand, you can do that as well. I think that sells for about 30 bucks, probably less. We'll have the link down below. Now, like I said earlier, mine is a custom version. I got from a website called Crazy Crow Trading Medicine. Crazy Crow Trading, anyways. That one, I'll put the link if you want to purchase it. I have no affiliation with them. That's where I bought it. And that one is pricier, $80, but it is a little nicer looking and it is more comfortable. So for those of you who have been asking me about this knife, there you go. Now, in case you do find yourself having a little bit of trouble with budget, because 80 bucks is a little pricey, we have something for you guys. We did get a new Green River Knives Hunter with the custom handle and the sheath. This wasn't sent to me. I purchased this myself, and we're going to be giving it out to one lucky viewer. So to enter the giveaway, simple stuff, guys. Go ahead and give us a like. It really makes a difference. It really helps us out, get more exposure, and helps YouTube push us a little bit more. And go ahead and comment down below. I don't want to hear I'm in. It could just be 1 or 2 sentences. Just give us a story. If I won the Green River knife, I would go so-and-so and cook this, and, you know, something simple like that. So I would go hammock camping in this state park, and then I would cook squirrel, or I would make a stew, or whatever the case may be. Something like that, because I love stories. And 7 days from now, a winner will be chosen. If the winner does not come forward in a week, we will choose a new winner. But as you guys know, I love my Green River. It is one of my favorite knives. I love its rich legacy. I love its simplicity. Like I've said before, it looks like I just walked into a museum and just stole this from the display. So I love that about this knife. So one lucky viewer will be rocking a new Green River pretty soon. With that being said, guys, that's about the conclusion. I hope you enjoyed this video. We have plenty more adventures coming soon, so please, once again, give us a like. Go ahead and comment down below, and we have good luck to everybody. So we'll see you guys next week. Now go outside and get your boots dirty.